I'm just telling you what they told me. So, and I said, gee, that's funny. And I thought they met here. And then they said, no, the player box.
No, there was a problem. And custodians of that work.
Okay.
Hey, Mars. Hey,
Because they stopped in just on the way from cleaning them, and they said the motors were an awful mess on them. So now they got plastic covers. So nice, the first time you had a chance to say it. I should have told you. I didn't know I had to tell you to talk.
Still around.
Get them scheduled.
Still ahead.
Well, that's the one. They're the ones who told her. Okay.
Total state bill 22. This is a period of 1998 to now. So that's six. That's 6 to 1.
Give it to you.
Roughly. Yeah, 6 to 1 is a negative. Yeah. Well, like 5.5. Okay. Probably didn't grab it again.
I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Granby Town Board. And we will begin with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Ruth, if you would please call the roll.
Supervisor Hawthorne.
Here.
Councilor Anthony. Here. Councilor Greco.
Here.
Councilor Haggerty. Here. Councilor Arnold.
Here.
Highway Superintendent Moyer.
Here.
Budget Director Lyman.
Here.
And Deputy Supervisor Ministers.
Here.
Okay. First order of business, I would like a motion to dispense with the reading of the previous minutes of the previous meetings and to accept them as written. That would be July 12th and July 27th.
I'll make that motion that we accept it July 12th and July 27th.
Has everyone had a chance to?
Yeah, I read them this afternoon.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I've had a request from Mr. David Stewart and Mr. Lyle Wilcox to approach the board this evening. So you would come forward and explain why you're here.
My name is David Stewart. I've lived in Granby all my life, in West Granby since 1937. And I live on Lakeshore Road. I see now we have a nice light on County Route 8 and Lakeshore Road. And I think we need a light at the intersection of 176 and Lakeshore Road. So I canvassed the neighborhood and have about 95% of the people signed that they were in favor of it. So I'll leave that with the board for your...
Looks like you did an awful lot of work, Mr. Stewart. And we thank you for all that effort. Certainly are a lot of names on there.
Thank you.
What we will do, I think there's a bit more to the process than the petition, but the petition is a nice first start. I will take the petition to our attorney and see what he says about it and see what our next step would be, and maybe I'll have to get back to you to do a little bit more. But with so many people in agreement, I think it's quite likely that we can be successful. But we have to go through, there's a very specific legal procedure that we have to go through before we can approve it. You know, even though we might, I certainly recognize the need for it myself, but we have to go through the procedure, and we will do that and as quickly as we can and see what happens. And I appreciate your efforts, I really do.
Yeah, I think.
Does the board have any questions? Or?
No, I appreciate you, Evan. Thank you. I feel with that much support, I feel that the board, at least speaking for myself, I'll try and support it and see if we can get this through.
Appreciate the consideration.
Certainly.
Yeah.
It is, especially in winter, it's very difficult to find that corner. I know Mrs. Wettering has had many a car through her front yard because people think it's time to turn, and it isn't quite yet. So you see the car tracks over there frequently.
Bad spot.
It is. So we thank you.
Thank you.
I also had another request from Mr. Lawrence Hosey and Ronald Dexter. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your allowing us on the agenda so late in the process, and we really appreciate it. I have with me Ronald Dexter and Bruce Lamont. We all live on Dan Road in town of Granby, and we're here today because we have a very severe concern about what's happening to the river in where we live. I have a petition signed by every person on Dan Road, with the exception of one family who was on vacation, and if I may, I'd like to read it to you.
Okay.
Whereas the undersigned have great sympathy for those residents who live on Ox Creek and who must deal with the weed infestation, we herewith request the board to make contact with appropriate persons in the county legislature and county administration to request them that weed harvesting such as took place in July and August in the year 2000 be suspended in future years until a method is devised which will prevent the extremely large quantities of weeds from floating into the Oswego River. We ask this in that in July and August 2000, it was impossible to use riverfront on Dan Road. This included swimming, fishing, boating, or other activities that in other years were enjoyed. It is our understanding the county equipment has been used to harvest the weeds with funds from the Finger Lakes Association. And in essence, some of our tax dollars have been used to create a detriment to the normal use of our property. We also have a genuine concern that the river environment will be badly compromised by the spreading of weeds to portions of the river that may not currently be infested. Every person I spoke to on our road had a story to tell about the weeds this year. This, I think, is maybe the third year that they've done this, and this year is by far the worst it's ever been. Today they were harvesting in the portion of the Ox Creek east of the bridge, and they weren't even making any kind of an attempt to pick up any weeds. The other years they've used a conveyor thing and they put them on trucks and they've hauled them away. This year they don't seem to be making much of an effort to do that. One lady told me she was out in her paddle boat and she got caught in a raft of these things and she had to yell to her husband to come and rescue her. I've spent as much time as a half hour getting the weeds off my boat and between my boat and the dock before I could even take my boat out. And it's really got to the point where we feel something needs to be done about it. Several of us, including myself, have talked to Mr. Boynton, and he's been very sympathetic and explained to us the process and who's paying for it and that kind of thing, and said that basically the county has some input into it, but it's not their operation. But it seems to me somebody's got responsibility for dealing with that Ox Creek. It isn't. It's in the town of Granby. It's in the county of Oswego. Individuals don't have any right to go out and hire a weed cutter and do that to the rest of us. There's a law that says you can't change the environment to the detriment of others, and that's exactly what's happened this year. And it's gone on for over a month. And the range of emotions is from anger to frustration on the people we've talked to. One lady actually came up here a couple of years ago and got her assessment reduced because she was denied the access to of her property to the river. And you know, that's a course that all of us may have to take if this goes on another year, because this is not a process of 1 or 2 days. This has gone on for over a month, and we're really tired of it. I realize that the town board can't do much to help us except maybe impress upon the county that we want to see something done differently. Now, there's got to be some way they can keep those weeds from going into the river. So one of the people I talked with suggested a net be put across part of it, and that's practical, I think, because it's shallow there on the one side, and it would keep them from going down the river, and then they could come up with their harvester and pick them up and put them in a dump truck. But we're here tonight, again, to ask you to do something in a way of contacting the county, and I'd like to present you with a petition and some pictures that show what's going on. Now, these pictures are pictures that were taken over 2 or 3 days, and they were not picked days that things were worse. It's been like that every day. In fact, sometimes it's been a lot worse than that. Ronnie, you have anything you want to say?
Well, it's like living in a bowl of thick piece, green pea soup. And you take it and rake it.
Excuse me, it would be better if you stood up over there, we could hear you better. Thank you.
Sorry. It's like living in a bowl of green pea soup, real thick. To get it off your dock, to get it off your boat, push it out. And as you're spreading these weeds out, you can see what the harvester does. You can see what the dead animals, the dead fish, the harvester is cutting the weeds. It's also killing the fish. And that's inside all this stuff that we're pushing back out in the river.
I'd like to ask you gentlemen a question. Last year, you know, the weed harvester, after doing Ox Creek, came all the way down the river past the dam road and picked up quite a bit. And I noticed that they didn't do that this year. I don't know if it was a money situation or what happened. But because I live on the river, I just don't own property right to the river. And they came all the way down to as far as, well, past the Wilcox Road, quite a ways down, and I won't mention the people's names and neighbors. And they cleaned up quite a bit of it. Now, maybe it was a money issue this year or not. Did you people have as much of a problem last year?
Well, one of the things is they can come and clean it up afterward, but for a month we haven't been able to use our riverfront. The stuff is there every day. Ronnie and I live next to each other, and we meet each other at the docks cleaning the stuff out of our boat berths so we can use our boats. And cleaning up afterwards isn't going to help us much. Because by then, as far as we're concerned, they're way down the river. They're down by Willabob now, I suppose.
But didn't they last year catch it more in time? I don't know. I'm just going from what I can see from. See, I have the river view without the extra.
Last year, it's my impression they did a better job of picking it up after they cut it.
Right.
Now, like I say, today and yesterday, they weren't making any effort to pick it up. They were just letting it float. And this has been one of the 2 or 3 worst days of the whole season as far as the stuff is concerned.
And I'd like to put, while I'm cleaning this stuff off my shoreline, I see snakes in there, you know, you get chased by snakes. You know, it's just, kind of pathetic, you know. But thank you.
Well, we appreciate you coming, and I know I can get on the phone in the morning and make some phone calls. I don't know for sure if there's anything we could do. We do not hire these people to do this. And Mr. Boynton is here, and maybe he can enlighten us.
Well, I understand that you don't hire them, and the county says they don't hire them, but somebody hires them, and somebody's got the right to tell them to not to do it. I just
well, that's why I would like to
who it is.
like to get on the phone and find out who is paying them and so forth.
How about if they came down and did what they did last year? Would that be of any help?
Well, it's after the fact. In my particular instance, it wouldn't help because I'm in a place where the current's pretty swift, and when they come in, I push them out and they disappear on me. But the people down there, there's one picture there of a place where they got little kids, and they can't even let them go swimming without they go down there and spend an hour or so cleaning a little pocket of those weeds out so their kids can get in the water.
Mr. Boynton is here, and if you'd like to respond to this, help us out a little bit right now.
they did a bad job. They didn't pick up, well, they did pick up, but they were falling off the back more as far as I can see that they were picking up. I know I was up to Kimball's property there, that's right in the island, and she had an awful mess there. And I talked to John D. Hollander, he's the Soil and Water Conservation. And he's been up there a couple of times trying to clean up. But now also, there's somebody else harvesting up there in that. We found that out
Really?
today. Somebody else is harvesting and letting them go. Because when we cut, what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
About
About a month ago. But they're still slowing down. And we've been up in the creek and cleaned that part up. So they're coming, partly our fault as well. I don't deny the blame in that, but somebody else is doing some harvesting that we haven't been able to find out who yet.
Well, the machine was there yesterday. That's not the county machine, was it?
Yeah, we've been trying to go down the river and clean up as much as we can. They're even on the
East side.
on the east side. And I had a call today from a gentleman over the east side of the river, just down past the racetrack. They had a little eddy there, and they just flow right in. And he does have weeds, but the chestnuts caught and hit weeds, and now he's got a mess.
Oh, Floyd, I can tell you something you already know. This is not it's a town, county, and the state has got to do something. It's in the waterways all along the whole waterway.
Yeah, and of course, the people that live in Ox Creek, they want the weeds cut, which, yes, the Soil and Water has been trying to do that. But I agree with Lawrence. It was a bad job this year, because other years it hadn't been as bad. I think you agree with me that. In that, so.
Well, last year, my neighbors, you know where I live, they said, hey, do you have anything to get that done? I says, no, we just got lucky.
I apologize to Larry, but there's nothing I can do now. And I'm talking to John today, and he's still trying to work and clean up some of the weeds. They're down in Fulton, because some people live right along the river in Curtis Street. They talked to me. So I don't have a solution right now.
I know you do. The state's got to jump in. They've got to do something. It's all the way down on the way to Albany to see it. These nuts.
All the state wants to do is okay harvesting. They don't want to talk about anything else. They just approve harvesting, that's all. So, but yes, perhaps the board could write a letter to John, express, their dissatisfaction, and state the number of complaints you've had from, I'm sure you've had some, from the people on the river. And I have a nephew who lives on the Dan Road.
Yes.
Yeah, Doyle. Yeah, he's
adamant about it.
Oh, he called me up and woo! He went.
It's his wife that got stuck in the paddle boat.
Yeah, I know. So, I got an interest in, but just express your.
We got another relative. It's right close to my property.
I know.
I've been waiting for him to come running up and say, because he's got all the weeds in his thing.
Well, I have to agree with him that people on the waterfront are taxed extra for the resort and and if they can't use. Morris and I one day went down to Wyburn Road, and you could put on snowshoes and walk across the water. Now,
except for me, Rosie, it wouldn't hold me.
Listen, their taxes, if it keeps up, I really have to agree with them that they shouldn't be taxed for resort if you can't use the water. That's my feeling.
But perhaps a letter to John, and perhaps he can come and talk to you.
Is there anyone else that I can contact?
You don't know anybody else more? Just be John D. Hollander.
I would like to speak on the matter when you're done.
Would you like
Because I got a solution, but...
You want me to sit down, huh?
No, absolutely not.
You can join him.
You stand right there and do all your business. I just don't want to interrupt your, whenever...
Well, we're talking about this issue now, so if you'd like to, please.
I also...
I won't hurt you. Get over here.
I can holler from here. I was also called, and I went down to Dan Road, I went up to High Banks, I went up to the cutter. Our machine is designed, of course, to cut and bring it inside and has the outside rigger paddles. That machine is owned by the county in essence, but it's also owned by the water, soil and water. It's given to the soil and water. And as much as these people have a complaint, and they certainly have one, because I was down there on Mrs. Kempwell, her name was Kempstead, she's married I think since then. But I was down there, and what happened was two things. There is somebody I think cutting someplace else and letting them go, but Nagamawk had dropped the water I think 2 feet that last Saturday night, and when that happened it tore loose a whole bunch of them, and they were coming down like little islands past these people's homes. And but you know something? I only got one thing to say. It is a problem, and we can't expect the state and the county and this town board. It's a combination of everybody working together to try to get a solution, and I really want one done. We have the Granby Clear Water people, who has been the most active group of any group in the county. Personally, at this point in time, I have not heard much from them. I know they're cutting. They must have to raise. They have to raise 25% of the monies to, because the state now supplies 75%. And it's a serious problem. And as much as these people have a problem, they've also got a problem too, because they can't get out of their homes. And this weed is a weed that, if it's harvested about 3 times in a row, it disappears for quite a while. It's just like, you know, taking care of your weeds in your garden. And I've talked to people in Florida where they use a weed killer that has been used. I've got about this much, and I've turned this into our planning department and try to get DEC interested. The Environmental Management Council has been interested. We got a problem. I would like to see some kind of committee organized. If the town board maybe has a liaison person that would help the citizens get organized in a system where we can talk and get together, because there's a lot of things we can do. And once again, I know there's no simple solution to this, but boy, people working together can do a lot more than's being done. And I don't know how we're going to stop the process, because I'm sure the power plants down there have a mess also. But if there is, this money, I understand, can be used for not only harvesting, but to build other equipment that may be things like he just mentioned, a net or something to catch them. But it's a combination of things we need to do. It really is. And Floyd has been working on this. John is part of my committee assignments, but I really can't do anything about how they cut. All I know is we had a group that was organized, they're doing very well, and I haven't heard much from them.
Are they the ones who are paying for it along with the state?
They must be, because they have to raise 25% of the dollars.
Right, I talked to Peter, well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and everybody that wanted to participate was assessed, excuse me, $100. Now, if they didn't pay last year, of course, you know, they weren't going to have the weeds cut in that particular property, so that's as far as much as I know about it. But I think if you get back with Peter and that group, if there's other things that they might be willing to listen to. But I still think, Morris, that it starts, if it's bothering all the waterways that's into Oneida Lake, that the state ought to get behind some of this for the money.
Yes,
a lot of money.
The state said they'd support us.
They support us for 3/4 of the price, and they say, here, you raise 25%, and you know the town board's been approached, and I'm not saying you can do it, because I know you can. But I do think they need guidance, and Floyd and myself would be happy, along with John. We just got to reorganize and go at this a little better. Oxford is a mess.
What type of chemical did you just mention they can use in Florida? We can't use it here?
No.
It's a derivative of 2,4-D, which you put on your lawn. Only it's put in a granular form. It's got a brand name. I talked to a scientist. Rose contacted me about it, and I called him directly and spent about an hour on the phone with him. Took all the information he gave me. It's about this thick. And I gave it to our planning department, who are the people that take care of this, and they made copies of this, and I just think we've got to get it all together.
They use it down there, and when he told me it didn't affect any of them, and so that's when I got...
But when you mention chemicals, people get awful nervous, and so there's a lot of things here that can be done, but I'm afraid things are not being done, and I think we've got to reorganize things a little. I say we. I'll be happy, Floyd will be happy, but somehow this ad hoc committee we have has got to be somehow brought on board and have some sessions here. We can talk to the residents and get something going, mechanically as well as any other way.
If that chemical doesn't hurt them down there, how could it hurt us up here?
Well, it depends on the flow of water, and the river has a lot of flow to it, and that's a problem. There's a lot of issues which I totally don't quite understand all of them, but that was part of it.
And still send a letter to John D. Hollander and express that and let him know what our neighbors are all the way down the river are upset, and rightfully so in that. So, like I say, there is somebody else harvesting, and we'll probably find out, but I have a general idea who right now, but...
these other people harvesting, do they have a right to do that, or is there, do they need a permit?
Each individual landowner can hire somebody to harvest out in front of their property, cut the weeds.
That's what they keep telling the homeowners, what's in front of your camp and water rights is your problem. That's what you keep telling these people.
I know, but the problem being, when they harvest, they got to pick them up. And that's what's happening. They haven't picked them up, and Larry's paying for it. and my nephew.
Well, what about the other guy? Is he related to it? His name is Doyle, down by closer to my house. They got the camp.
Well, I'm sure that I don't know if they're harvesting down there or not.
Yeah. Maybe Mrs. Supervisor, you should have John D. Hollander to one of your sessions, talk with the board, understand the problem, so everybody on the board is familiar with what happens, what rights. Maybe you can go through that process, and maybe we can invite somebody from that committee at the same time, so the board knows what the story is about the whole process. I think John would do it. And then if you want to go any more than that, I don't know. I just think there's something's got to be done. I and Mr. Boyden will do anything we can at the county level to stop that. I don't think we can. I really don't think we can.
I think you got an ecological change that's going on with the zebra mussels that are in the river now, that have cleaned that river up so much that the sunlight is getting to that, and it's growing these weeds where they never grew before.
I think this issue though happened the other day when that water dropped. It tore loose a lot of stuff and came down in mass. I was down there Sunday with in front of their houses.
Because the hydros did drop the thing to flash the dams. They dropped 2 feet.
First time one does that without telling anybody. I had a boat get wrecked one year because they dropped the water and it smashed the boat against the bottom away from the boat by there. If they tell you, you can prepare for it, but they don't even bother to tell you.
It's not Nagamawk anymore. You know, I mean, I realize what you're saying, but that's what they'll do. They'll regulate the water levels. But I think a bigger picture is that with zebra mussels, I don't know any of the boat. You can go on Lake Ontario or Night Lake or up the river, and you can see a lot deeper than we ever could 20 years ago. And it's just, I think you got weeds growing where they never grew before.
Well, you can on our property. You can see right to the bottom, 5-6 feet down, which you never could.
Yeah. And I think this is going to just get growth going. But I mean, if we're going to maintain a river, that harvester I see is on the north side of Fulton. I saw it last night. So I don't know whose it is.
Today, because I saw one right in that tree right now.
If you go out 48 north,
the harvester you see down Ox Creek is owned by the county, but Soil Conservation runs it, and it runs for all the municipalities to come up with the matching funds, and that's what it is. That's the way it's run.
We don't think you're going to stop this year. We just like to see something started so that we know in the future something will happen. And I think I speak for the three of us. If there's any input or committees or anything that we can serve on, we'll be glad to do it.
And I have all 3 of your names here.
Yeah. Just acting like they picked them up like they did. They didn't see the activity of the, I mean, we used to see the trucks loading them and unloading them. You don't even see the trucks no more.
I can tell you the county highway department has a truck there and it's being used. I was at a highway meeting today where it was listed how much time they spent. Quite a considerable amount of time on it. So the county's giving them the truck to use it. See, the county gives them the support equipment, the cutter, the truck, and all the support and the people. And
I've been down there about 20 years now, and this is, I've never seen it like this. Never.
That's right. I agree with you.
I've never. I mean, it's almost like there's no effort at all, just cut them and let them go. I mean, really, I mean.
That's why I think somebody else is gonna do it. I don't think this machine might be missing something.
No, well, I understand that, but if somebody else is, somebody ought to find out who is doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, make them pick them up or something. If you gotta pick them up, why shouldn't they have to?
Yeah.
I think we'll have to get some, find out.
And I realize that, it's probably it's not nobody's fault, but I mean, somebody's gotta do something about it. I mean, they can't just keep doing it. If it's gonna be like this every year, boy, it's gonna be a problem.
Okay, I guess.
I think one thing to keep in mind too, if we can get some help and get a task force together, the hydros on the river, I mean, it costs them a lot of money too. When all that stuff ends up down there, they got to pay somebody to clean the racks and haul it away too. So
One of the neighbors has a son that does that, and he hauls 8 feet of it out every day.
yeah. So my point is, I think if we've identified a problem, and Orion, I think, is the name of the company that owns those hydros now. Let's get them on board to help out as well, because it's costing them money just like it is costing you an inconvenience.
Yeah, I want to bring up one point, Nancy, you and myself and a number of us have been invited to be on that committee for the canal.
Yes.
Which maybe we'll have some input there.
I was going to mention that there is a new effort to bring together the communities that live along the canal. And I had a woman here from ESF in Syracuse and explain the whole situation, or what they're trying to do. They've scheduled a workshop for September and 2 more workshops after that. And I do plan to go. That might be something we could talk about, because it does affect more than just this town. It affects the whole, and the whole emphasis is on the canal area.
Can we be informed of the progress we're making on this thing, or?
Certainly will. Your number in the phone book?
If you need any help, you can call us.
Okay. We'll see what we can do.
We appreciate you listening to us.
Certainly. I appreciate you coming.
Well, we've vented a little frustration.
Yeah. I feel badly for you.
If anybody wants to come in person to look at it, I'll take them out in my boat and show you the whole mess.
Morris, I'm going to maybe you can get this gentleman's name and get a hold of Peter Block, and maybe because he's involved, isn't he the president of the committee, and get more people in the group.
I want to check on the committee to make sure it's functioning and what's going on.
They must be.
I'll be happy.
I mean, it's happening.
If I can have their names and stuff, it's like any one of them, I'll be happy to keep them informed. But I do feel we should get John, the experts here, to talk to everybody.
Okay, very good. Thank you for coming. Would you like your pictures?
Yeah, we like to be excused if we may.
Sure.
Larry?
Instead of me mailing this, I'll just give you a copy of it.
Oh, okay.
Because I said on there that I did that.
All right.
You got your names on it too?
Mark's the first name and his last name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you want those pictures back or no? No?
Any use to you?
We got the real thing.
Gotcha.
Any use to you and anything you lose. You're welcome.
Okay.
Hey, Vince. Oh, he's not here. He's just got to let this.
I had a letter from David Hastings, who is the director of the County Real Property Tax Office. Dear Nancy, I'm advised that by the end of July, the town of Granby will be receiving a check in the amount of $5,439 from the Office of State Comptroller. The state aid is to help offset the cost of administering the STAR program. Should be recorded in your general government account until it's the proper account to put it in. As yet, we have not received this, but I expect it will arrive any day. This year, to date, your town assessors processed approximately 2,946 STAR applications. This This entailed mailing forms, reviewing applications, entering data on computer files, amending property record cards, assisting taxpayers with application processing, answering taxpayers' questions, and data reporting to school officials and county offices. I hope you will consider the added burden of the STAR program as placed on your assessors and act accordingly. Many towns have used this money in the past to upgrade their assessors' computer system. If you are one of the few towns still needing an upgrade, now is the time. In any event, I would encourage you to meet with your assessors to review their situation, determine the most efficient use of this funding. As always, I'm available should you have any questions or concerns. We are, in fact, using this money for the STAR program. We have, on or about the time they started that program, we hired a part-time clerk in the assessor's office. She is there 3 hours a day, and it has helped a great deal. Ruth and I still get some of the applications and take care of them if they come in the afternoon, but having someone there has been a great help. So we have, in fact, used this money, and we also did upgrade their computers. So apparently there are some towns, I hear some scuttlebutt, that some of the towns have just taken the money and used it for something else. But I don't know how you could, because it's a huge amount of work, extra work, to administer the STAR program. It's an excellent program, and we encourage everyone to take part, and we can accept applications anytime. I'll just review again. The seniors have to apply each year, those who are 65 and over. People who live in mobile home parks have to apply each year, it is my understanding. People who are not 65, if you have applied before, you do not have to apply each year unless something changes. But if you've not applied before, certainly you want to do it because it's very much worthwhile. Did I miss anything, Ruth? As far as, so it's a good time to bring that up. We talked at a meeting or two ago about the fire code contract. I would like to get that sent back to Atlantic Inland, and we have added some names to it and so forth. Are we ready to make a resolution authorizing me? I did send it to our attorney. I haven't heard back from him. He may want to make some minor change in it, but nothing of significance. So if we could have it contingent on the approval of our attorney.
I'll make that motion. We accept and go with the fire contract.
This is with Atlantic Inland. We've been with them for some years.
Right. Contingent upon the attorney and so on.
The total annual cost would be $4,900, presuming they don't run into additional situations. And I think we pretty well spent a lot of time last year identifying the properties that need to be inspected. We added a few more this year. Maybe took off a few that no longer are appropriate. So I think we're in good shape with that. Any discussion? They seem to be doing a good job.
They did a good job. The list they gave us, we went through it thoroughly, and they did a good job.
And last year, the inspector was so good that he would come in and he would mention to us other places that maybe he had found, and he would go ahead and do them. Yeah. So he worked with us very nicely, and so I would like to continue.
Nancy?
Yes.
Does that include multi-family dwellings?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't remember if it did or not. Okay.
We have a motion, we have a second, we've had some discussion. Ruth, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Hawthorne?
Yes.
Counselor Anthony?
Yes.
Counselor Greco?
Yes.
Counselor Haggerty?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's getting close to September, unfortunately, and that's when they start, so we need to get that back to them. A bit of housekeeping. This is something that goes back to 1997. Yes. It's come to my attention. As you know, the planning board has been working on the comprehensive plan since around 1997, 1998. They started talking about it in 1997. The town board apparently checked the minutes and found that there was discussion and a request that the planning board take the lead and prepare the plan, but there was never a formal resolution. And we need to have one. So that is just part of the process that the town board has to.
Okay. Resolution regarding the comprehensive plan. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Granby directs the planning board of the town of Granby shall prepare a new proposal, comprehensive plan for the town of Granby, recommending by resolution such plan to the town board upon its completion. I'll make that resolution.
Second to that?
Second it.
This is just a formality to, this is according to section 272A of the town law. Should have been done in 1997. So, any other discussion? Would you call the roll?
Supervisor Hawthorne?
Yes.
Counselor Anthony?
Yes.
Counselor Greco?
Yes.
Counselor Hagerty?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
And I thank you, Ruth, for doing all that work and checking the minutes to see who we checked in 1997, 1998 to see if there was such a resolution on file. It will be so much nicer when we have our minutes indexed. We have a grant to do that. We're going to start within a very short time. So that's going to help situations like that a great deal. Okay. Also in old business, we have been talking for several meetings about possibly changing the zoning to put some additional restrictions on the age or perhaps the size of mobile homes. I don't know if we're ready to do anything tonight. I did prepare a good bit of information for you regarding the number of permits that we get, the number of mobile homes coming in, the age of them, the size of them. I don't know that you've had too much chance to look at this thoroughly, and you might want to look at it in more detail. I also made a number of calls to other towns, and I kind of summarized what I found from those towns. It's kind of a mixed bag. Some have very stringent requirements. For instance, Ira has 5 years maximum, or they cannot be more than 5 years old. We're talking mobile homes here. And they also require peaked and shingled. Palermo has 10 years, with the exception of parks. There's so many different ways of approaching this situation. Some of the towns are putting zoning areas where no mobile homes at all would be allowed. It would be like an R1 zoning, and that's very common, always has been through the years, I think. But when our zoning plan was passed some years ago, it was just bare bones. The whole town is agricultural zone, and almost anything goes, with the exception of one very, very small residential zone, the entire town. So that is another possibility. That one would have to come, I think, when they finish the comprehensive plan, or as they prepare the comprehensive plan, because that would require changing the zoning map, and I think it should come as a result of requests from people. Should let the town know, or the planning board know, that they might want a zone change.
Why don't you read what all the other towns are doing, Nancy?
Do you want me to read them all?
Yes, I do.
Hannibal was a minimum 14 foot wide, 20 years. I said Ira. Oswego is largely residential zoned with none allowed.
Oswego Town, that would be.
Oswego Town, yes. Palermo is minimum of 14 by 70 with 10 years, except in the parks. Schuylkill, 1977 and newer, but they indicated to me that a large part of the town was zoned residential and excluded mobiles. Minetto, I'm not clear about that. They said none allowed, but then I didn't think to ask if that included double wides. Volney has no size, age or size other than the HUD requirement, which I think is 1974 or something like that. Mobiles are prohibited by zoning in about 30% of the town. Double wides are permitted with proper skirting and so forth, black skirting. Hastings is another town that prohibits any mobile homes in some areas by zoning. So that's what I found out so far.
The only other town I'm concerned with that is interested would be Lysander.
Yes, I had a call to them, and the code officer was busy when I called, and I didn't get a chance to call back. But I think that one I want to call, I had
that's
a
fine.
couple others that either there was no answer or I had left a message or whatever.
What about Sterling? Did you check with Sterling?
I have that on my list to check.
Okay.
Fairhaven and Sterling one, or is that two different towns? Sterling and
Fairhaven is in the town of Sterling. It's a village in the town of Sterling. I lived there for a while. The only thing I would ask, we don't have to do anything more tonight. The most we could do tonight would be to set a public hearing date. I would only ask that if we're going to do something, we not drag it out for months and months and months.
But our town lawyer said he has to look more into it. He left the meeting.
He asked for this information.
Is that it?
That was what he was...
Is that?
It is not. He gave us his legal things. I don't remember anything that he had to look into. He suggested that we gather this information.
I thought he said I have to look into this more.
I don't recall. I'll ask him. Because he does not get involved in any policy decisions. He gets involved in the legal aspects only. My thoughts about this, in starting this whole thing, was that it be some kind of interim measure until the planning board and the town board takes a more comprehensive view of mobile homes and zone changes, etc. But maybe we should wait until then.
But you can't have a public hearing until this board determines what you want to do and how many years you want to go on it, right?
Right.
Somebody else to challenge. I always challenge, so
Apparently we're not fully...
Well, one other thing that is handed out here is the total number of mobile homes since 1998 through 7/27 of 2000. Total mobile homes, new homes in the town was 124. To the stick-built or modular homes, which was 22, which looks like a 6-to-1 ratio, if you will, almost 5.5 to 1, of mobile homes to stick-built in about 2.5 years. I think that the comprehensive plan that was brought, the preliminary, and everybody started to bring that to the town's attention, is that there's a tremendous amount of growth in the mobile home area versus normal homes. And if you project that over 10 years or whatever, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. And that's, I think, why the town board is taking a look at this, and do we need to take an interim step prior to that comprehensive plan coming from the planning board? But I guess that's the decision. Do we need to make a motion to put a restriction here in the year 2000, or wait till this comprehensive plan takes effect, which may be a couple years down the road? I think that's the at issue here. I think it's not that anybody's singling out single wides or double wides or anything else. It's just that here's a projection that was brought to our attention, and is there an interim move that should be taken to maybe offset that?
This really puts it in very vivid terms. It's not really the first time, you know, we get these monthly reports, and I've been concerned because I think I've noticed in recent years there might be 4, 5, 6 stick-built homes or modular homes. I put those together because I think the modulars are built very much like stick-built homes and would not be restricted, but it's been a concern of mine. And also the fact that there does seem to be a trend among other communities to become more restrictive. I don't want to be left behind.
Right.
Do you want to maybe give it one more meeting to talk it over?
Well, I got the stick-built homes you say is 22. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And 124 mobile homes. Well, those mobile homes aren't cheap either, and their tax assessments are high. So you figure if you're going to wait around just for these 22 people to build houses for 124 other, your assessments in Granby are going to go away. You're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to lose a lot of money if you're... That's my opinion. Some of these mobile homes are very expensive. 40.
I went through every permit.
40,000. I mean, and you put a $40,000 home in, and you're saying in 8, 9 years. Well, I won't go into that. But look at the assessment money. Look at the money you're going to lose. I mean, people can't afford to build these stick homes today.
What we're doing here is not eliminating all of these that, you know, that are listed here. Perhaps what we were thinking more was the oldest, the ones that perhaps are not in the greatest condition at this particular point anyway.
Or under a square footage. Well, we've got, I'll jump in. We got 2 avenues, I guess, to go if you want to come up with an age. My voice seems to be bad tonight. I don't know if I want to get some water or not. I've had 2 ideas, and I know the board members haven't all agreed. I was thinking of one, if we maybe go with the year, nothing any older than a 1990, and then you would, you know, because you would have to update it in 5 or 6 years. I realize that. Or then you come up with no older than 10 years old and no older than 12, and see how you people all feel about that. The other one is more of a progressive type thing, but it's what I've heard from the board, talking amongst ourselves a little bit, that, you know, you don't like the idea of going anything, we'll say 1990 or newer, because we'd have to change it in about 5 or 6 years. But I'll also add to that, we got one more work session here on the 23rd. We can toss this around some more and try to set up a public hearing for what it was, I guess, be enough time, September the 13th, and
I think there would
see if we have a lot of people over here.
just barely enough time. That would be about 3 months or 3 weeks. Does that figure out right, Ruth?
Oh, totally.
If we scheduled, if at the next meeting we scheduled a hearing?
Vince. I think you'd have enough time.
If we did it on the 13th?
It has to be in the newspaper, what, 7 days ahead or something like that?
It's either 5 or
Just
10.
throwing
5
something
or
out there.
10, I can't
You're
remember.
just throwing 10 is even too little.
But
I even think 10 years is too.
Well, you got two alternatives. You only heard one.
I'm against this. You know,
Okay.
I'm the only one on this board that's against this. You know this. The only reason why I'm against this is Granby has become a dump for mobile homes. Fine. But that, you don't penalize everybody that has a mobile home. This is our fault. This is the town's fault because our code enforcers didn't do their job. I believe we should have a full-time code enforcer. We've let it elapse and elapse and elapse and elapse. Now you say we got a jungle of old mobile homes. This is not the mobile home people's fault. It's the ones that have been there for years and years, and we've let them. And I'm one of the responsible ones, 13 years.
Me too.
We let the people get junky. And it's not, you can't tell these people after 8 or 10 years you cannot move a mobile home. You cannot do this. We have to get a full-time code enforcer and keep our town clean. That's all. You cannot, don't let me get on the bandwagon, please.
Do you know what a full-time code enforcer costs?
I would like to.
I'd like to see a full-time code enforcer and not, you don't penalize other people for our mistakes, Vince, yours and mine.
Okay, so next year when it comes budget time, if you want to come up with $25,000 to $30,000, you could probably consider getting
Well, we've let it.
And I don't think you can get it for 25.
And I feel very bad sitting up here telling people that they cannot move an 8 or 10-year mobile home because of our mistakes. I can't go for it. Sorry. I can't go for it.
The other sheet that I handed out, if you count 10 or 12 years or how many you might think would be appropriate, it will determine how many others might be somehow prohibited.
I can't help it.
That isn't to say everything, of course, that is here is grandfathered in. So.
Yeah, I understand everything that's here now is grandfathered in. And right now we have a 20-year law, which is progressive, so.
All the old junks could stay. All the old junks could stay.
We don't have a choice. That's the law. We cannot change.
Well,
we cannot.
That's our mistake again.
No, that isn't our mistake. That is when they passed the first zoning ordinance. Any time you pass an ordinance, whatever is here stays. Now, I agree with you about the need for a greater code enforcement. I know that they are just too busy just doing new permits or to go out and do some of the other things that they might do.
Some of these places, even houses, I mean.
They are doing some.
There's some shacks in this town that should be burnt down.
There's some, in the summer especially, they're just barely keeping their heads above water in terms of trying to keep up and do the inspections that are required for each new permit. There's well over 100 a year now that we're doing. It's not just homes, it's swimming pools and porches and garages and so forth. So they're very, very busy. So we do need more time. We do need to spend more money, but that's another whole issue. That didn't create this issue, and that's not going to solve this issue.
I could see going to 15 years for 15 years. Under that, I can't go.
Seeing she brought up code enforcement, I've only heard two complaints on that. They say our code enforcement officer is not enforcing the present law that we have now. Now it's 20 years, and I was just doing my math here. That means in 1980. Now you can't bring anything any newer than in 1980 in the town right now. Plus all those other specifications that go along.
Like I say, I went through all of the permits. Unfortunately, some of them did not list the dates, and those are accounted for on here. No year indicated.
Yeah.
There's quite a few of them. I believe, and I talked to Brace, I believe that the information is in the file, but it would take hours and hours to pull each individual file and to find out. So I have no evidence that it's not being enforced.
Well, that's what some person said, but
well, you know, people speculate like that, and I would not want to make that accusation that
without. If you look at your sheet, there's nothing here that's below 1980, that's for sure.
Well, we did not. I told her to do 20 years.
Right.
I got friends that live right on Lakeshore Road. Now, if they wanted to pull out their mobile, which is an older mobile, and they keep it up well, and they wanted to come in and say, oh, I've got this here, 1985 A1, and that's all the money they can afford, they're they're not going to be able to pull it, take their old one out, junk it, and put that 85 in, because we're saying they can't do it. Oh, that's not for me.
Anyone else? What would you like to do tonight?
I think it needs more discussion, but I think, as I stated earlier, if you take those numbers, over 2.5 years, 125 mobile homes since '98 to the year 2000. By the year 2010, all of us sitting here are going to look at 1,000 more trailers in the town of Granby. I mean, that's what in reality, that's what we're looking at. Whether they're all 2010 trailers or 1970 trailers is irrelevant. I mean, that's what perplexes me the most, is that we're looking at, in 10 years, putting 1,000 trailers in the town of Granby.
Yeah,
more trailers, not existing trailers, that's more trailers. I mean, if that's what the town wants, so be it.
Oh, okay,
The other piece of information.
Mobile homes, they're not trailers, they're mobile homes.
Well, mobile homes or modular homes or
Modular, mobile
Not
homes.
modular.
Dave, okay.
manufactured homes.
Okay, I understand from the manufacturer, starting with 1988, that they've improved the construction of these mobile homes. I believe it's, and I could stand corrected, it could be 88 or 89. You're saying 85, I think 85.
85, they start building 2x6s.
I think it was 2x6.
You 2x6 is 85, you talked to Ferdy.
Well, so they are making better construction, I know, from 88 on. I can't go below that. But that's still about a 12-year-old mobile, Dave.
Right.
So I'm flexible in that aspect.
I agree. It's just, if you paint a picture in your mind of the town of Granby 20 years from now with single-wide homes, and you got 1,000 more somewhere here in the town. I mean, take a snapshot from the air. Where today we got houses and farms and this and that.
You mean from the comprehensive plan that we've seen, yeah.
Just in your own mind. I mean, that's just what I'm thinking about. I'm just looking down the road.
I will try to get some statistics on how many
do we need to...
that would be grandfathered in that are already here.
That are here.
We did, when I helped them with the, and Rosie helped too, with the comprehensive plan, we mapped the whole town, and they got these color-coded, and it's rather remarkable.
I'd like to hear something from my neighbor here about this. I'm hearing from Dave and Rose and myself. He's got to have 5 cents worth of opinion.
I kind of agree with Dave a little bit, but size-wise, you could always go with square footage. Start there, and somewhere between
1,200 square feet?
No, 12 years old, somewhere around that general area. But square footage, if you go with square footage of a 70 by 14 and up, instead of lower, that would take care of a lot of the problem.
I think at this point, like I say, I'm looking at this as an interim thing to avoid the worst problems. If someone moves in one that is in really poor shape, you're not affecting just that one person. It affects 4 or 5 neighbors for each one that comes in. And I think those 4 or 5 neighbors would be quite appreciative if we kept that from happening. I was kind of stunned by those figures, and it's something to think about. It really is. Yeah. And I think, especially in terms of the comprehensive plan and what we might do down the road, I guess our question now is to whether to do something in the meantime. If you want to get a little more information.
Well, you're going to check these other 2 towns that we've talked about, Sterling and Lysander. You just mentioned one other thing you might get some information on. I feel along the clerk says we got enough time. we can hash it around again on the 23rd and see if we want to decide to go with a public meeting at that time. Is that agreeable with everybody?
As long as we don't keep hashing it around meeting after meeting after meeting.
Agreeable, Dave? And
Yes, oh, yes, sure.
Yeah, that suits me fine.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll get a little more information, what more information we can get, and,
I mean, maybe spot zoning is the answer, I don't know, you know.
well,
This is going to be,
having some residential.
this is going to be a public work meeting next time.
Yes, it is. It's a
executive
public
meeting, right?
It is a public meeting, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a work session. No public, whatever you want to call it.
Called a work session last time, but then it got an executive.
Yes, we had a meeting with our attorney, and that's always a private meeting. Let's do that then.
Okay.
And,
I'm agreeable to that. 7 o'clock on the 28th.
but I think you can think, and you can think, and you can think, and you can think, and you never get anywhere. You're just spinning the wheel. So let's come up with something, some decision by the next meeting. And either move forward, and it would, this whole thing is a pretty modest thing. We're not affecting a whole lot of people. If we were to do an age thing right now or a size thing, very few people would be affected. I've been hit with the argument that, well, we've got to have more opportunities for modest or for affordable housing, but the numbers speak for themselves. This town has a very adequate amount of affordable housing at this point, so.
Very good.
Okay, we'll do that. New business.
No.
The Cody Volunteer Fire Department is, our fire district, has been busy. They had a meeting of the fire commissioners. They have had several meetings, I'm sure, but on the 10th of July, the year 2000, they had a meeting, and I believe it was a public hearing as well. Yes, ma'am. And after some discussion with people in the town of Lysander as well, they would like to change their name. The name that they have been using for many years is Lysander Cody Fire District of the town of Lysander and town of Granby. And they wish to change that name to Cody Fire District. Simple, straightforward. It's what everyone calls it. They did have the public hearing, and they passed a resolution. I will read their resolution. Resolved that the name of the Lysander Cody Fire District of the town of Lysander, Onondaga County, and town of Granby, Oswego County, be changed to Cody Fire District, and the respective town boards of said towns be petitioned to adopt such resolution, changing the name of the fire district as aforesaid, without any other changes of the said fire district except for such name change, and that upon approval of this resolution as aforesaid, a copy of the said resolution as adopted be delivered to the respective town boards of Lysander and Granby for their consideration, and that this resolution and approval of the aforesaid change of name be approved. In other words, they made a resolution to change it, and now they have passed that on to us. I've given you all copies of it. And I'll give you the resolution that we would pass to approve of
I
that.
always thought it was Cody's.
Well, we always call it Cody.
But they do need our approval of the change. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Les? We have one of our commissioners with us tonight.
Resolution for change of name of Cody Fire Department. Whereas on July 10th, 2000, the Board of Fire Commissioners of Lysander Cody Fire District of the town of Lysander in Onondaga County and Granby in Oswego County met and adopted a resolution changing the name of Lysander Cody Fire District to Cody Fire District, and delivered a copy of said resolution to the respective town boards of Lysander and Granby for their consideration. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Granby approves the resolution adopted by the fire commissioners for the aforesaid change of name.
Any discussion?
No.
Did we get that right?
You need a second to it?
I think we did. Did we get one? I think we got one.
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea to me. I have no complaints. I can't imagine why anyone would. Ruth, would you call the roll?
Yes. Supervisor Hawthorne?
Yes.
Counselor Anthony?
Yes.
Counselor Greco?
Yes.
Counselor Haggerty?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you need a copy of this resolution probably for somebody?
You keep one on file.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
certainly. Okay, also new business, I have a contract which comes up every year with Matrix, which is the company that services our telephone system. This is something that's very worthwhile. The total cost is $537.90, but I know last year we must have got at least that much. They were here several times, brought us new phone pieces, you know, receivers, etc. So I would hate to be without this, because we certainly have no one who would know what to do with it.
I'll make a motion.
We're closed down if we don't have a phone.
I'll make a motion, we accept the contract with Matrix for repair service.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Ruth, call the roll.
Supervisor Hawthorne?
Yes.
Counselor Anthony?
Yes.
Counselor Greco?
Yes.
Counselor Haggerty?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Well, I got a chance.
Thank you. I will sign that and send it in, and it has to be done by September, so I wanted to get that out of the way. County legislators, have anything additional?
Go on. I'll give you the first chance.
Good evening. Once again, it's always good to see all of you. I got a little list of what's going on tomorrow. We have a legislative meeting going at 2 o'clock. And we're going to have a resolution passing the properties that are up for auction. We're nearly, at this point, as of August 3rd, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 330 properties in the county of Oswego. And this figure usually goes down, hopefully. In the town of Granby, and both Floyd's and my district, we have about 14 properties. Hopefully those properties, most people get paid for, will pay their taxes. And of course we're in a position to help in some cases where we can, and we will, I'm sure. We're also appointing tomorrow one of our budget officers, Stephen Lodick, to also be our auditor. The county of Oswego at this point hasn't had an auditor in quite a while in the sense of an official auditor, and we hope Steve will be appointed as of tomorrow. We also have an application for Sandy Island Beach. That beach is functioning, is operational. There has been some misleading stories in the press at times that many people thought it is not open. It is open, it's fully staffed. We have facilities there on a temporary basis for bathrooms as well as changing, and they tell me it's doing well. Considering our climate this year, it is doing well. So we did apply, or reapplying for the state of New York for funds, hopefully a grant that we may get to build permanent facilities in the near future. We're also, tomorrow, that is going to be by special resolution, to put it on the floor for us to sell some land across from our transfer station in Pulaski to the IDA, approximately 19 acres, that will hopefully save 237 jobs of Fulton Boiler and maybe increase 50 more jobs. We are in a quandary to get this accepted, put on the floor and done, because they could go to Ohio, and we certainly don't want that. It's a tug of war, and this site has been selected, and speed is of the essence because they are very tight where they are in the city of Pulaski, or in the village I should say, and it's very important we get something done. Hopefully that'll go tomorrow. Through the IDA Sports Complex on Route 481 across from Dutch Ridge Road is one of these freestanding air units similar to what you see on Route 31 over here in 31 and 41. Only something that's probably as big as a football field. This sports complex will accommodate 3,300 people in its inside in various rooms. It can be operated summer, winter. They expect to have many events. It'll accommodate 5 different operations, such as basketball, tennis, gymnastics, a full stage of people, and bleachers come down from the side walls, and holds somewhere in a neighborhood of 700 or 800 people. This is in the process of being, the excavation is started now, but we expect to see construction probably within the very month.
Where is this?
Starting 481 in Dutch Ridge Road. There's water has to be brought to the complex, but it looks like quite a civic. It's designed for civic use, and it really looks good.
This is a county building?
It's not a county. It's a private enterprise.
Does the county provide financing, loans?
IDA is one of the partners in the financing structure. There's a number of private, state, and IDA. Airport day will be Saturday. Starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, there will be open house at the airport, and exhibitions, rides, food, and come and see your county airport. That's going to be happening on Saturday. And on Friday of next week, the Oswego Speedway celebrates its 50th year. And a celebration
This Friday.
is this Friday?
Yeah.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right.
Whoa.
I better look where I'm going. This Friday. So 50 years that they've been in existence. And there's a lot of other things going on, Floyd. I mean, you're going to get up here?
I'm going to get up there.
Oh, okay. Then I don't want to take up too much more time.
Thank you.
I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. Thank you.
Thank you, Morris. I don't want to add much to what he's saying, but hopefully we're going to have a quiet meeting tomorrow. I say hopefully because we never know. One thing is we're offering our employees early retirement, and that'll be in a public hearing first, and then that'll be first resolution on the agenda, and I assume that's going to pass. As Morris mentioned, the state is forcing us to have really an internal auditor. We have a good auditing department, is that what you call it? No, but there has to be somebody in charge in that. So, and we're going to have a public hearing, establish a date for a public hearing for proposed local law to establish salary schedules for the 3 elected officials, the clerk and the treasurer and Rick's friend, the sheriff. Also, our emergency preparedness office has developed a comprehensive plan, which in essence we've had right along, but the new plan will have in it something to do with terrorist attacks, how to perform, what we need to do, and who's involved in it, and the whole works. And as Morris said, we're having applying again to it's the Office of Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation for a $350,000 grant for the Sandy Island Beach to put up permanent structures. We did apply for this before. It was turned down, and they told us to reapply and we'll see what happens. So we're in hopes at least we get something to, because we do need to put permanent structures up there. We have a waiver from the health department now. I would assume that we could have another waiver for another year, but we must do something in that. That's about all I have now. And I thank Morris for being here to help me.
What did you say they're doing for the sheriff's department?
Pardon?
The sheriff's department, what are they doing for Rick's boss?
Well, the 3 elected officials, they haven't had a raise in some time.
Oh, my.
So it's you have to have a public hearing first and and go from there.
You mentioned the disaster preparedness program there. How are the towns tied into that? Is there someone from each town that's a part of that?
Well, we have our own.
No, we have our own here, but how does that?
It's all tied in together, isn't it?
Well, yes, I think there would be communication between the county office and us,
Yeah.
whether it was our own emergency or a more widespread emergency. It's all kind of planned. I do want to get a hold of the county office and set up a follow-up to what we did last year. We need to do some exercise of tabletop exercise or something to make sure that we're still remember what it was all about.
I would like to ask one question. When Mr. Hosey gave you his petition, did you have more than one page?
I do have 2 pages, yes.
Because he gave more than I one, and it says page 1 of 2, and we don't have page 2.
Page 2.
Oh, okay. Then perhaps maybe we can get a copy or something afterwards.
Sure.
And I didn't know the other 2 gentlemen who was with him. Do you know them?
One of them was Mr. Ronald Dexter, and I believe he said the other one was Bruce Lamond.
Okay. All right, I'll get the names. Thank you.
Hey, Boynton, our association up at Casog Lake's got a little weed cutter. You want to borrow it?
I'll talk to you later, Rosie.
I thank you very much. Good job as always. We have a report from the dog control officer. Number of complaints 34, number of dogs picked up 8, number of dogs destroyed 1, number of dogs released 6, number of dogs on hand 5. Monthly expenses of $63.10, $55 and $3. Monthly mileage of $336. Impoundment fees collected $20. Adoption fees collected $20. I do have a report from the historian. Dear Nancy, it's been months since my last report. I do apologize for that. In July, I was able to volunteer at the historical exhibit hall of the Oswego County Fair for the Meet Your Historian Day. I have attached a copy of the thank you. I had family history requests from Bunny Peterson in Idaho, Norm Robinson in Schenectady, and Carol Meehan in Naples, Florida, and I was able to help all of them to some extent. I will continue to do what is expected of me and look forward to the months ahead. She too will be starting a different grant that we have received or about to receive, which will allow her to finish organizing the records room, which is sadly needs it to make room for additional records in the years to come. And there was even a third grant. What was the other one?
It's an archival grant for archiving old records.
The real old type things,
Right.
which we have some marvelous items back there. And they require special knowledge and special treatment. So she will be learning how to do that and following up on that. Okay. Planning board?
You got anything? They approved that, but everybody knows they approved the gas station, right? That's the last thing I heard about. I was on vacation when they had their last meeting.
Very good. CBA?
We're processing a special use permit now. I believe this week in the paper.
Okay. Our youth director?
I didn't go yesterday. Bob, were you at the airport yesterday?
Yeah,
I did. How was it?
They had 26 sign up. I had everything ready, planes, my plane videos, but only 7 kids came.
Really? Oh my.
Well, he wasn't sure and I wasn't sure. So first,
They had the bus for 7 children?
they had a big bus. with only 7.
Oh,
That's too bad.
That's sad, isn't it?
Sorry.
Too bad because we could have given a lot more kids a lot more information. Again, this was just a ground course of Experimental Aircraft Association, of which I'm part. What we do at the EAA chapter at Oswego County, making breakfast, planes that our members are building. I had my plane there.
That's
I let each
discouraging.
one get in it.
probably, the people who did take part probably were much impressed.
Isn't that discouraging that you have this fine program for these children?
But they don't know until they've been there.
Signed up.
You know, they don't know what to expect.
On the other hand, what Morris said, we tried to stress Airport Day, which is Saturday. Come and see static displays. Hopefully I may get to fly. We're trying to put a flyby program together. And Sunday is our pancake breakfast, and we have been doing a Young Eagles program where we fly kids ages 8 to 18 for free. And they were kind of enthusiastic over that. So.
Well, I didn't make it yesterday, so.
I drove by just the other day and I was amazed how much it's changed. That's the last time I was out that way. It's been quite a while, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
We do have a couple more programs coming up. One of them I think is filled, is it not?
The Thousand Islands. There's about 10 mothers that want to go, and
lots of chaperones.
that would be great if they take on 5 or 6 more.
Well, they will have to.
And that means, then I don't have to go.
Okay.
I won't get a couple more gray hairs.
But that seems to be a popular one this year. Everyone is looking forward to it. I think that's coming up next week, is it? I don't remember.
I think that's going to be...
I think that it is filled.
Yes.
There was one cancellation, two children, so I think there's room for 2 more children.
Oh, there you go.
There was a gentleman in yesterday, and he was going to call Dave.
Oh, okay. So that may be
They may have taken it. He was very much interested. I told him
that's going to be a wild one.
That should be a real nice one. And then there's still the splash party at the pool, Hilton Pool.
That's the end of it.
So that's been a nice program this year. We've tried some different things, and some things worked, some things didn't work quite so well. Highway Superintendent. Yeah, I put it in your mailbox.
Good evening. Report for July. We finished the paving of Doolittle Road. Continued our mowing. We're having a hard time keeping up with it this year with all the rain. Grass is really growing, but did 4 driveway installations. We did some drainage work on Libel, Rathburn, West 5th Street Road, and Stony Robbie Road. We started working on the surface of Snug Harbor Road, that development road we took over a few years ago. We went in, we scarified the existing top. We put in about 1,000 feet of geotextile fabric in the worst of the areas. Then we went in with about 8 inches of gravel over the road surface. That part is about done now. The graveling is. We got to shape it up and roll it. The ditching is pretty much finished. So we're going to get the gravel in and get it compacted, probably put some run-a-crush over for the winter, leave the top off, at least until spring. There's a lot of activity down there now. There's a couple houses under construction. You wouldn't leave the construction traffic on it. I just as soon go through another winter to find out if we've got any springs or any soft spots under that road. We can take care of them before we put the top on. And other than that, we installed a cross culvert on Stony Robbie Road. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Bob, anything? Okay. Code enforcement, I don't have a report, but they've been, like I say, very busy. I talked to the code enforcement officer last night, and he had a line of people, as usual, in the summer. The one thing that's been different around here, we have had the state auditors here for a couple of weeks, and I'm real pleased to say that they're not going to stay. Not that I haven't enjoyed them. They've been very nice and very helpful, and they answered a lot of my questions, but it looks like they're have looked over our procedures. They've done a risk assessment, I believe they call it, checking the books and checking Ruth's minutes and our various procedures and whether we're doing things properly and passing the right resolutions and so forth. And sometimes when they finish that, they go on with a full-scale audit, but apparently they are not going to do one. And so I'm quite pleased.
Very good.
That's nice news. But so that's kept me rather busy because pulling out various documents and records and so forth. Anything else, Rose? Seniors?
No. This cemetery looks terrible up here. When do they cut our cemeteries?
See, though,
The bank looks, I've been tempted to take my weed eater and go do the bank myself, but we're paying somebody to do it.
I'll call him and see if he'll do that bank. I asked him once.
There's another thing I have to ask. If you want a law passed in the town of Granby, if there's child molesters in Granby, should it not be made public to the public who the child molesters are? I just...
If there's such a law, that would be a state law.
It would be a state law?
I think so.
We'd have to check with the sheriff's department,
And
right?
yes, I would call the sheriff or the state police.
They have to notify when they move into an area.
I think, didn't they pass, wasn't it the...
Because...
I can't remember the name of it, but I think they did pass such a law, and there's a registration of it.
Well, I'll tell you why, Nancy, because when we was...
It's nothing that we would get involved.
When we was looking over the books, I see that Granby had a couple. And I says, shouldn't that made public? I mean...
Oh, no, not the court records. Absolutely not.
No, I mean the child molester, the molester.
Oh, that's up to the state. I mean, if someone is convicted and under certain circumstances, I believe that there is some notification. But
10 years they have to register.
The court records would not be, it's not up to the court to
open a book and say, oh, your neighbor's a molester. I mean, I think you should be notified.
Yeah, but the sheriff's department controls it, I know.
Yes.
I went to that class in New York. That's why I was asking all those questions.
I know. But
I went to that class in New York.
It comes from that local sheriff's department.
No, our court would never, our judges would not be responsible for any such notification. Anything else? Okay, good. Need a motion to pay the bills. Want to pay the bills? They're not very big this time.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the payment of town bills as audited for the abstract of 8A-00 in the amounts of $4,130.38 from the general fund, and $3,156.69 from the highway fund, and $77.26 from the Willbop Lighting District.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next meeting is August 23rd. It's a work session, and work sessions will begin at 7 o'clock. Next regular meeting would be September 13th, which would be at 7:30. Public comment. Who would like to speak? Come forward, please.
My name is Mary Cunningham. I've lived in Granby all my life, and there were 3 or 4 things that were discussed that I would like to... I'm not using it. There's 3 or 4 things that were brought up that I'd like to kind of touch base on a little. Supervisor Hawthorne, you mentioned something about spot zoning.
I didn't call it spot zoning. I would not.
Is spot zoning something that might be a possibility rather than change the 20-year rule on
That
mobile
is something
homes?
we are considering, and that's why I mentioned it.
It sounds very intriguing. Oh, you mentioned it.
And I mentioned that a lot of the other towns are using their zoning map and declaring certain areas, and that certainly is a very likely possibility.
Yeah, because that sounds like a good alternative to punishing people with lower income by saying there's certain mobile homes, certain ages can't be sold.
Okay.
And I mean, the average mobile home loan now can be from 15 to 30 years. So is it fair to tell someone with a mobile home that's 10 or 12 years old who still owes money on it that it's not worth, that it's not worth really anything anymore in this township?
That's where I take issue with you, because I don't understand why you say it's not worth anything.
If you pass it and all the other townships around follow suit, how far are the people going to have to go? Yeah, it is a big if, but it's a possibility.
Well, would you rather it be the opposite way and we are the last one to pass it?
I don't think it should be passed anywhere, because...
Well, I mean, I can't speak for other towns.
You're going to pigeonhole people who might, when they pay their homes off, after 15, 16 years, trade them in for something newer and better looking, into keeping the older mobile home and staying in it. Eventually, you could end up with thousands of old mobile homes. You could create more of a problem than you're fixing by changing the 20-year rule. And Councilman Arnold, you mentioned something about 124 new mobile homes and 22 stick-built. How many of those mobile homes went on private property? How many of them went in parks? Do you know? Do you have an idea of the number?
That was impossible for me to pull out.
Because
I would assume they don't need a trailer. They don't need a permit to go in a park.
Yes, they do.
Oh, they do?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes, they do.
But
I don't know that.
I would have to, it would take a lot more hours to go back and determine which.
Because probably a good share of those 124 are now paying taxes.
I have a number of total sites that are in the parks, and it was a little over 300. And many of those have been there for a long time, and many of those, they tell me, are vacant. So there couldn't be too many that are going into the parks.
Okay, so if they're going on property, they're paying taxes. And the more taxpayers we have, the better. Even if a mobile home is less share than a house would pay, it's still tax income for this township. And the more of them that do have the ability to trade up once they're paid for, the better mobile homes, the more expensive mobile homes, the more their taxes are going to be increased. If you pass a 20-year law, if you pass this law and make it 10 years or 12 years, are you going to give tax breaks to people who have 20-year mobile homes because their homes are worth less?
Because their homes are what?
Are worth less because they can't. If they can't trade them.
Why can't they trade them?
They'd have to trade them out of the township. And
why not?
Why not keep the business here?
In the information I got together, there are a good many towns not too far away who would accept them. So that is a very viable option. They certainly can sell them. I don't buy the argument that they're worthless at all.
It's not fair, though, that they can't trade them in our own township. And it's going to hurt people who do deal in mobile homes.
But is it fair to the rest of the town to trade these older ones and just move them over? And as I tried to paint the picture of the expanding number of mobile homes, you know what I mean? There's two sides to that.
Yeah, there are.
I'm trying to be open-minded, and I really appreciate your comments.
The spot zoning sounds like a good option, a viable option.
Oh, I think that is an option we will be pursuing.
Okay, and
what we are talking about now is something in the interim.
And someone mentioned about you get a bad one. I believe you mentioned about you get somebody bad in a mobile home, but there's just as many people that don't get along in houses with their neighbors and in apartments with their neighbors. We're always going to get bad people.
I did not talk about people at all. I wasn't referring to people.
To people? Okay. Perhaps I misunderstood. Perhaps I misunderstood what you said.
You did.
But
I said a very old, dilapidated mobile home.
Okay. But I'm really interested in checking out that spot zoning, rather than seeing the township change the 20-year rule. Okay.
Anybody else?
Can I ask a question as to how many mobile homes are already in the town of Granby?
I was trying to find that out today. I talked to the assessor's clerk. I may be able to find out, but I'm not sure. I think the only figure I have, and I haven't found it yet, in the 1990 census, there was a breakdown. We may have to wait for the 2000 census to get.
I believe in the comprehensive plan work that we've been working on, I believe the 1998 figure is the latest one that we have, which was 900. And so if you added the 124 that Dave was talking about, there would be a approximate figure, I believe.
Right, good. I wondered too if they had that, because they did collect all that data that you folks put together, and whether someone counted them or not. They put all those marks on the map.
Right.
900.
Yeah, it was 900.
That's good to know.
It was
As of 1998?
I believe it was 98, yes.
Thank you. Anyone else?
There's one other thing I might add. Every time according to the facts and figures that New York State Farm Bureau put together, I believe it was 2 years ago, each residence, this is an average throughout New York State,
For each dollar's worth of tax that is paid by a residence, they receive $1.36 in services from our communities. And agricultural land is the opposite end of the scale. For every dollar that agricultural land pays in taxes, they receive 29 cents in services. So your residences end up costing the town more than they actually add in tax revenue.
Good point. Okay. Anything else?
No other comments? Make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.